Alright, y'all. So, welcome to another episode of the More Knowledge Show. It's been a while, but I'm not even gonna explain myself on why I've been gone. We're just gonna start immediately, like right now. And so, to begin, I just wanted to say that we're gonna try to make these More Knowledge shows a little bit shorter. I feel like when people go on YouTube and they scroll through their feed and then they see a More Knowledge show and it's about 30 minutes long, they're probably not going to want to watch that. That's a pretty big commitment. That's a large chunk of people's lives, and I understand people do not want to spend 30 minutes listening to this stuff, even though, and the reason why people don't want to spend 30 minutes listening to this stuff is that you could find many videos that'll give about the same information, like 5 minutes. So we need to be a lot more efficient. We need to start getting out more information in a small amount of time. Later on down the line in the future, of course, we can do more fancy and elaborate things. But for right now, the only way that we can set ourselves apart is if we really try to be more efficient and cover more things quickly so people can actually get all this information down without having to waste their lives. Anyway, so to start off, I want to talk about something that I usually don't talk about, which is something positive. Usually I'm very negative. Usually I'm talking about how the economy is going to collapse, people are going to be starving, people are broke, people are poor. And I'm still going to talk about that. It's a fun thing. Well, it's not a fun thing to talk about. It's actually pretty sad. But I believe it's a relevant thing to talk about, because if you go on mainstream media, of course, and also one thing, I don't want people to think I'm like one of those people who just hate on the mainstream media, because they're really not doing anything wrong. They're doing what they're supposed to do. The mainstream media has never really been supposed to expose the truth or to scare people or to tell people that everything's going to be terrible. That's not really the job of the mainstream media. I mean, it is what it is in the title. It's mainstream. I'm not hating on the mainstream media. I'm not saying that they're all terrible people. I'm just telling you what the reality of their position in society is. If you really want to get below the surface, you're gonna have to look beyond the mainstream media. But I'm not like saying that they're evil for what they're doing or they have some sort of agenda. I mean, some of there definitely is corruption. There definitely is some behind the scenes stuff in what goes on in the news. But I would say in a country like America, it's a lot better than in a lot of other countries around the world. Anyways, I just want to say that. But I usually do like to talk about how things are going to be bad. But today, I figured I'll talk about something positive, and that is the improvement in the economic numbers. So I've been talking a lot about how the economy is going to continue to get worse, and how the worsening economy will lead to political problems. There'll be chaos in the streets. People will be rioting, fighting, all of that wonderfully entertaining stuff that is so interesting to talk about. But recently that's not been holding up. I've been looking like a complete idiot. Just look at some of these numbers. I mean, the housing market has been improving. That's absolutely wonderful. We all know appreciating housing markets go on forever, as we saw 10 years ago. But the market PMI showed improvements in both manufacturing and services. I've always been talking about how manufacturing was doing bad and how services is next. The services part of the economy will go down as well as manufacturing. Well, according to the market PMIs, that is not holding true. Consumer spending is still relatively resilient. I mean, there are some mixed consumer confidence surveys. Some are showing increasing consumer confidence. Some are showing falling consumer confidence. But the actual consumer spending is still doing pretty well. And in fact, business investment isn't doing too bad either. Core capital goods orders increased more than expected, and overall GDP for the third quarter was actually revised upwards. It was revised upwards because the contraction in business investment was less of a contraction than expected. Well, less of a contraction than initially reported, and inventory accumulation was also greater than initially reported. So GDP was revised up to like 2.1%, and which would be an increase over what it was in the second quarter. And all of that, makes me look completely wrong. So if you just look at things like that, we have a strong economy. From what we're hearing, maybe, a phase one trade deal is coming. We haven't heard any like groundbreaking stuff out of Hong Kong. There isn't like, the protests are still going on, but we haven't heard any like mass violence. It just seems maybe things are really starting to get better. Maybe they are. Maybe it's time for me to accept the fact that I've been wrong about this whole thing, and the economy is actually the greatest in American history, as the president has always said. But I'm not that stupid. All right. Of course, I can't be positive for that long. I mean, well, like I can say I'm gonna tell y'all what's really going on. All right. There's positive economic numbers, but there's also some things that are behind those numbers. And let's get into what those things are that are making those numbers exist. All right, for one thing, the Fed has been lowering interest rates. They've lowered it 3 times this year. And, with the Fed's having to lower interest rates to support the economy, it's clear that the underlying economy is not that strong because it's having to be stimulated. And also, one thing that we've learned from interest rates, you cut interest rates, they have diminishing returns over time. So eventually, more interest rates cuts are going to give you less in return for economic growth. And that's been happening. So we're going to get to a point where you cut interest rates and it has no effect on the economy. And when that happens, monetary policy will have officially ran its course, and you can't use it as a tool anymore. But for right now, it's still a viable tool, just not in the long term. So that's one thing that's been a boost for the economy. Another thing is the stock market. The stock market is continuing to hit all-time highs. There's something called a wealth effect. All right, when stock markets are hitting all-time highs, people are holding stocks in their accounts. They feel wealthier. They're going to be more willing to spend their money. All right, and that's probably partially the reason why consumer spending is doing so well. But as we know, your wealth in the stock market, is it really there, or do you just think it's there? Because that can change really fast. And, of course, my beliefs on the stock market are not very positive down the line. I do not believe that this bull market will continue. I do not think stocks should be at all-time highs when earnings are falling. And earnings are projected to continue to fall. I do not see why stocks are the way they are. But that's another large reason why consumers are spending and the economy still looks so strong. And the third reason is that there is this belief out of many people who are saying that a phase one of the trade deal is coming. The trade war is coming to an end. And the trade war has been a large source of uncertainty for the economy. It's been the reason why business investment has not been great. It's been a drag on the economy. It's a large reason why economic growth has slowed down. So if you take away, or at least you make it seem like maybe this trade war risk is not as strong, it's less likely to escalate, which I think is pretty much the consensus opinion, which I think is wrong. But it's also a reason why maybe we see an uptick in business investment, because it doesn't appear as big of a problem. But all three of those things are wrong in the long term. Okay, the trade war will escalate again. It may not be now. It may or may not be now. It could be now. I mean, who knows? Maybe right as this video uploads, we hear something that escalates the trade war. I mean, but over time, it's going to have to escalate. It's going to escalate whether it's over China's subsidies, their policies, or maybe it's over Hong Kong. Because America, of course, is going to be taking Hong Kong's side, and that will prevent a trade deal. So it's going to escalate, and when it does escalate, this optimism that's been, maybe leading to a rebound in investment will not continue. And another thing I would say is that there's been overall a how shall I say it, a misviewing of the risks that are going on globally. All of these problems that we see, all these protests, all these, these things are coming to America. It's coming to America. The same problems that are causing all these protests, all of these riots and violence and political chaos in all of these other countries, it's coming to America. We have these same problems. We have inequality. We have corruption. We have these type of things that could spark these events, and eventually it's going to come to America. And that's completely not being accounted for. But when that does come, it will hurt the economy a lot. It probably drag us into a recession. So all of those reasons are why the economy is appearing to get stronger, but it's also why all of that will not last. And it's not surprising. It's really not. Like, never underestimate the ability of the government or the central bank to prop up the economy. They're great at it. I mean, these people all graduated from Harvard. They all graduated from MIT, Yale. I mean, these are very smart people. Like, do not get it fooled. They're not dumb. They know what they're doing. Okay, but it's just not going to work. Tricks, no matter how intelligent you are, you can't just use tricks to base an entire society off. That just does not work. But besides the economy, this is probably, if you're watching this, it might be Thanksgiving already, and as you know, Black Friday is right upon us, and Black Friday is kind of like a very American thing. It's a large part of America's culture and kind of how the outside world views America. A lot of times when other countries, when they watch videos of Americans, they see Americans as like fighting over flat screen TVs at stores and stuff like that. And I don't really know if that says a good thing about America or a bad thing about America. Because, I mean, at least we're fighting over luxury items, and we're not fighting over necessities like toilet paper. Like, that would be a bad thing. If we were fighting over, the fact that we're fighting over luxury items shows that maybe Americans are just better off. Maybe we have the means to be fighting over luxury things because we have everything else covered. We have all of our payments paid down, all of our debt is gone. We're making a lot of money at our job. We just got a promotion. All of our assets are performing well. The value of our houses continue to increase. All of these things. It just, maybe that is what Black Friday truly shows. But in fact, as usual, I'm going to take the negative view on this and say that Black Friday shows a major problem in America, culturally, economically, all of that. And the issue is that we have this consumer economy that is built off of unsustainable consumer spending on things that depreciate in value. And that right there can, on the paper, make it seem like, the economy's booming because people are spending all this money. But if you really look at it for what it is, which is people who are taking out debt, people who aren't making very much money, and people who aren't doing well financially, spending all of this money on things that do not really reflect their financial situation, and things that will not provide anything for them in the future. And that right there is really the core of at least one of the many problems that exist in America. And I think a large thing that shows is, people take out debt to buy a BMW or Mercedes, but it's like, the whole point of driving a BMW or Mercedes is not because it's not because the car is actually going to do anything for you. It's because the car is kind of a status symbol, which represents wealth and success. But if you're taking out debt to purchase a status symbol that represents wealth and success, that means that you're cheating your way towards achieving that status. And, as usual, like I've said for the economy, tricks, cheats, all these things that are used to prop up the economy are also used to prop up people's self-esteem. And just like how propping up the economy is unsustainable, propping up your own self-esteem through credit, through spending on things that you can't really afford is also unsustainable, and that is what is driving a lot of what's going on. And I think that we can blame the central banks. A lot of people blame companies. They say companies, the way they do their marketing, they do this to encourage this type of spending. But I would say it's central banks. 'Cause central banks give people an incentive to act in ways that are not in their best interest. So, for example, when they hold interest rates really low, what that does is that gives people less of a reason to save their money, because inflation is moving here, but yet you're getting paid, below inflation. And as a result, people are less willing to save, they're more willing to spend, and they're more willing to take out debt. And that kind of creates a mentality of spending, okay? But that mentality of spending is then, of course, going to be capitalized on by companies who see that as a good opportunity to come in and market to these people, because people are, it's easy for them to take out as much credit as they want, and they can spend as much as they want. So companies, of course, are going to come in, but the companies who do all this marketing, that is simply a reaction to the conditions that were created by the central bank when they artificially hold down interest rates, when they pretty much discourage people to save their money, discourage people to hold money in the banks, discourage people to act more conservatively with their money, and instead push people into spending their money. And then, of course, then companies are going to come in and be like, okay, so you have all this money to spend. Well, spend this money on this luxury item, because you need this luxury item in order to appear a certain way. Okay, so the companies are just playing the game, but they didn't create the game. The game was created by the central bank. They wrote the rules of the game, and then, of course, companies are going to play it, and consumers are going to play it. The game is not a good game. And Black Friday kind of it's like the Super Bowl. The holiday season is like the Super Bowl of this game. And I think, it's not the Super Bowl of a good game. It's the Super Bowl of a very bad game. And I think that's a problem. Anyway, that's just my take on Black Friday. I'm not gonna criticize people. I mean, not everyone who's going Black Friday shopping is an idiot. Some people just see it as an opportunity to get a good deal. Some people think it's fun just to go out. I'm not gonna be one of those people who are like, if you go out on Black Friday, you're, a clown. You're not necessarily a clown. Some of you guys are, but I mean, if you go to any event, you'll find some clowns. Okay, but I'm just saying what the overall event kind of represents. Anyway, it is Thanksgiving, so I think it's a good time to talk about what we should be thankful for. And right now, I would say probably the best thing to be thankful for is that you're born you're living as a young person in 2019. And I know to some people, they're like, well, 2019, we have all these problems, look at what's going on politically, all of that. And yeah, I could see that, but just imagine being born in like 2000, what's the next year? Like 2100? The next century? I mean, just imagine being born then. I mean, we'll be all old, we might be dead, but listen, things aren't getting better. Be thankful that you can at least live out the young years of your life in today's society, because I think it's getting worse. And I think that's something to be thankful for. At least, as we're getting old, we'll see things get a lot worse. We'll see the downfall of things. And then at least we won't be living out our high school and college years in that situation. So if you don't got much to be thankful for, I think that's something to be thankful for right there. And of course, you're born in 2019. You're also not born in, the Great Plague. You're not born in the Irish potato famine. So, we are living in relatively stable times compared to what was in the past and what might be ahead. Anyway, that's today's episode of the More Knowledge Show. I'll see y'all next week.